The other wild card within the case study landscape is quantifying success. Because a lot of companies, when they use a product, they may not want to talk about how successful they've been. We don't want to talk about how much sales have climbed or how much conversion rates have improved or how much retention has been reduced. It's like they're state secrets. How do companies create impactful case studies when a customer won't quantify their results? You're talking about anecdotal evidence at a high level, or they did things better or faster. It sounds nice, but doesn't have as much meat on the bone as numbers. What do you do in those cases? And how do you encourage or and motivate companies to share the results, that it is a win, that it does reflect well on their performance and as the company as well?
Let's start there and then move to what you do when they won't. To get companies motivated to share results, I think a few key things. Number one, realize that most of your clients won't know their numbers at the drop of a hat. And sometimes them saying no is them saying, I don't know. So instead of surprising them on a call or in an interview saying, what are your numbers? Would you share this? Giving them a little bit of homework ahead of time. People want to come prepared for an interview. They want to be able to look knowledgeable and to speak to their success. One of the simple things that you can do is, if you have data on your end, share it and say, these are the specific KPIs, metrics we'd love to speak to. What do you think? Are you open to sharing them, so that they have something specific to say yes or object to? Because from there, you can build a different case for other things that I'll get to in a moment. So give them a little homework, give them the data that you have, and present it in advance of the call again, so that they can prepare. Let's say they say, oh, those are too sensitive, we don't want to talk about those things. Your first course of action is to look for proxies. So to say, okay, if you don't want to share the exact number, could we turn this into a range? Could we turn this into a percentage rather than a raw dollar figure? Could we turn this into an equivalent? This is why you see in some case studies or customer stories, for example, statements like, with the money they've saved from X solution, they've been able to now do separate other thing. We're not defining the exact amount of money involved, but we're showing that, hey, there has been a savings over here that has now been applied somewhere else. Now, let's say that they are reticent to share any metric at all. What do you do? How do you make this meaningful? I think the first thing to realize is, not every win, not every piece of buying criteria, not every concern a potential lead has to do with metrics. Yes, there are some explicit things. If you're hiring an SEO company, you want to know how they can help you rank and traffic increases. Those things are compelling to you. But you're also very concerned with, how do they communicate? Are they ethical? How do they treat their customers? How do they iterate and solve a problem? How do they form a strategy? None of those are KPI driven stories. When metrics are not available, we look for is, what are these qualitative decision making factors that we can now speak to? We can't share the exact metric, but how can we translate or ask questions that point to these qualitative realizations? The other thing is tangible examples. Even when we have a KPI, we never stop there. Go beyond the metric and into the impact. It's one thing to say, our frontline staff are now 50% more efficient. Okay, fine. When you go, our frontline staff are now 50% more efficient. For example, Caroline, our front and office staff, no longer spends 8 hours a week chasing executives to give them their paychecks. It happens automatically. That visual for someone on the front line of chasing executives around, going door to door, we may not have a metric like the hours, we may not have a metric like efficiency, but when we can paint a picture of, in real life, here's what's possible now, here's what the experience looks like, that can also be compelling. Yes, it might feel a little bit squishier, but squishy can be compelling because it's relatable. If I'm someone who feels that pain or wants that picture for myself, not having the metric may be okay in that instance. So lots of ways to come at it, but examples especially make a big difference.